For more in studio, we are joined now by the CEO of Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Mark Dubowitz. Mark, thank you so much for being with us in the i24 News studio this evening. When it comes to Syria, a lot of developments, specifically on the horizon. We're talking about the future for a security deal between Israel and Syria, but all the while, these tit-for-tat exchanges do continue. But is there this potential that Israel and Syria can put that to the side, or will there always be this tensions, you think, on the borders?
Look, I think there's opportunity, and I think Israel should pursue that opportunity. But let's make no mistake about this, that the president of Syria, Jolani, is al-Qaeda, ISIS, jihadist. And he's now in a suit, and he looks much better than he used to look when he was running around in war fatigues. But I think it's a big question mark about whether he's fundamentally changed. And I think for Israel has to understand, and I think Israel does, that it could have tens of thousands of jihadists on its border. And it needs to take care of its security first rather than pursuing, some delusional deal based on a new moderate Syrian president.
And we've seen already the Israeli government take action when it comes to the Druze in Syria, and this is still a question mark that remains if the Syrian government will put these assurances to safeguard the minorities in the region.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in close touch with the Druze in Israel. I've seen the horrific videos of what happened in Syria. I mean, there were truly horrific killings and rapes and tortures and kidnappings. It was really the Druze October 7th. And, as you know, for Israelis, the Druze are brothers. I mean, they're truly brothers in arms. I mean, they fight together in the IDF, and they certainly have a responsibility to defend the Druze in Syria. And so I think Israel's going to have to be very careful about that as it pursues some kind of diplomatic relationship with the Syrians. And the Syrian regime has got to commit to protecting its minorities, Druze, Christians, Kurds, Alawites, and others. And these jihadists that are under the control of Jolani have been out of control.
Do you see this as something that Israel wants then, or is Israel also being pushed a little bit by the United States? Once again, U.S. Special Envoy to Syria and Lebanon, Tom Barrack, was in the region. A big focus on Lebanon, but Syria also at play here. The United States has a stake in this as well.
Yeah, I mean, the United States for sure has pushed this. I mean, I think when President Trump was in the region and he met with Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, I think MBS clearly pushed Trump in this direction to give Jolani a chance to ensure that the United States, Israel, and Saudi Arabia have influence in Syria. Because remember, the Turks are behind Jolani. The Turks are pushing deeply into Syria. They see Syria as the bulwark of a new neo-Ottoman empire that Erdogan of Turkey is trying to build. So yes, I think there's good reason to try to normalize with the new Syrian government, but let's be very cautious about who we're dealing with, and eyes wide open, and Israel's northern border must be well protected.
Realistic and cautious all at the same time. And now, as you talk about the potential for future ties with Syria, the messaging that we're still getting from the White House, from the Trump administration, even Steve Witkoff this week said that we're quietly discussing Abraham Accords with plenty of other countries. I don't want to get too optimistic here, but do you see Syria being in the horizon, one of those countries? Or if not, who do you think Steve Witkoff is alluding to?
Yeah, I mean, certainly in the horizon. I'm not sure short term. I think probably more promising, and it's really surprising to even say this at this point, but is Lebanon. I think Israel's military successes against Hezbollah have really opened the door for the new Lebanese government to move in. They've actually taken unprecedented steps now by demanding that Hezbollah disarm, and certainly have the backing.
Things that we couldn't even think about a year ago, and let alone 2, 3, 4.
No, it's remarkable. I mean, Israel's military achievements against Hezbollah, against Hamas, certainly against the Islamic Republic of Iran, opened this door. The Assad regime went down, so now you may have opportunities in Syria. Hezbollah is no longer the military threat that it once was. The Lebanese government can assert itself. And I think the United States is playing an important role in trying to bring some semblance of normalization. I think the big obstacle, of course, still remains Gaza. And in some respects, Israel is stuck in the mud of Gaza and limiting Israeli options for a much broader normalization. But I think when the Gaza war is over, I think there'll be huge opportunities for Abraham Accords 2.0.
What's also being talked about as we speak at the White House right now. Trump expected to present his comprehensive plan for post-war Gaza. We talked about it a little bit at the beginning of this show, but I want your take, Mark, as far as what the Trump administration needs to present to get both Israel and the Arab countries on board with the vision for post-war Gaza.
Well, I think the vision is got to be there is no post-war Gaza with Hamas in control. I think, the IDF has done a remarkable job of severely degrading Hamas's military capabilities. But of course, there are 20 live hostages still being held, 50 bodies. That has to be part of any comprehensive deal. And I think it's time for the United States to put immense pressure on Arab countries, which are finally, after almost 2 years of war, starting to speak out with one voice and demanding that there is no post-war planning with Gaza in control. So one can be hopeful, but we've had our hearts broken many times along the way.
It certainly is. You don't want to put too much into it because you know what could happen. As far as the Arab countries, though, a big question is still the Palestinian Authority, what role they could play, because the Arab countries, well, they don't want Hamas there. They also don't want to take charge of the Gaza Strip. They want the Palestinian Authority. Israel doesn't. So how can that big question mark be solved? Well,
again, I think the Palestinian Authority has proven itself certainly incapable in the past of ruling Gaza. Big questions about whether the Palestinian Authority can even rule Judea and Samaria. But there have to be a Palestinian representation. Maybe it's local Palestinian representation and having local Gazans that are actually part of this. Maybe there's some notion of a reformed Palestinian Authority, though, again, I think that might be a pipe dream. But clearly there has to be a Palestinian part to this in order to enable the Arab countries to play the role both in reconstruction and in oversight that they're going to need to play. But again, all of these moves towards recognizing a Palestinian state in September in New York are doing everything to undermine where we want to be, everything that it is emboldening Hamas, is making a hostage deal more difficult. The French, the Brits, the Canadians have now recanted. Finally, the Germans, thank God, are smarter than the rest. But I think this recognition of a Palestine is only going to set back the prospects of peace even further.
A lot of still question marks remain in the region, but Mark Dubowitz, it's great to hear your perspective on truly everything that is unfolding right now in the Middle East. CEO of Foundation for Defense of Democracies, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.